Hey, friends. I observed something today. It's really interesting how these things work, and I have to I often will have an experience in my day, or as I will shortly explain, last night, overnight, something will happen, and it's like, it feels like just an event. It just feels like a thing to do, to manage, to deal with. But if I give it just a little time, like the rest of a day, all of a sudden, an event, another event, there's a pattern begins to emerge. And I'll explain what I mean. I went to bed last night, and within hour or so, my daughter woke up. So I just had to go in and gently get her back to sleep. Didn't take long. She wasn't really didn't really wake up that much. I think had a bad dream and dozed off pretty quickly again. I was in her room maybe 20, 30 minutes at the most. Then she woke up again at like 3:45. And I went in, and this time she was awake. I She wasn't upset. She was settled. She was calm, but she was wide awake. And I did my thing of just being near, rubbing her back, just took it easy, didn't get worked up. But as I was lying there, I started to wrestle with some of my own internal challenges. I started to just kind of have I don't know what to call it, like a spiral. I didn't go all the way. I didn't fall down the spiral, but I noticed my thoughts starting to spiral, and and that had an impact on what it felt like to be lying in bed awake for ended up being over 2 hours. It ended up being after 6 o'clock before I was able to get out of her room. She finally fell asleep. Slept super late, got a great night's sleep. I, however, did not. And so that was kind of like the starting point of my day, was coming out of that, and this kind of self-recrimination spiral that I had gotten myself into. And then my day happened, and I bit off a bunch of it. It's like I'm doing a presentation in a couple weeks, and it was like I had to come back to a bunch of different, not a bunch, I guess three, but at least three different software programs that I needed to use that I've used before. One of which I haven't used before, but most of which I've used before. And it was like peeling off the band-aid of remembering how they work, and like just that those moments when you're learning something, or you're just refreshing it, and it feels like it's going to take forever because the progress you're making is so slow. That's what I felt like. And I was doing all that on a pretty tired psyche. But somewhere in all that, so in other words, to complete that little chapter of what I'm talking about, I did that for an hour or two, and at the end of it, I was like, I've made no progress. All I've really done is remind myself that I have so much left to do, and I have this unending, project it's not actually that big of a project, but because I haven't fully defined it, it's like there's no clear parameters for how long it's going to take. And I know I have these learning curves I've got to go through if I want to do this right. So I was like, ugh, all I've done is remind myself of how hard the stuff is. But at the end of that, or somewhere in the middle of that, really, I settled into a place of I'm fine. Everything is fine. It was like the elements of me that had needed to experience that churning, kind of like face the darkness, had done so. And it was like I reminded myself, oh, right, you can throw anything at me and I'm going to be fine. And in the moment of wrestling with each thing, sometimes I don't always remember that. It's easy to get carried away. It's easy to get caught up in like, oh my gosh, this might be the thing. This might be the thing that defeats me. This might be it. You know, learning finale again might be the end of my life. Yuck. But that's precisely why, you know, and again, I'm kind of dramatizing a moment because it's almost like, you know, the moment at the end of the hero's journey where the hero realizes that they've been worthy all along, but it's the trial that teaches the hero that they're worthy. That's a little bit what I had today, except it was like, you know, learning a software program. Didn't rise to the level of hero's journey narrative necessarily, but I do experience those moments, and they are real. There is a genuine emotional quality to them where it's like, it feels like it could be a defeat. It could be somehow failure. And on a day when I'm tired, right? A day when like I start the day wiped out. And then but then coming through that and being able to arrive at that place of I'm fine. There is nothing in this that is going to defeat me. There's nothing in this that's even really a formidable challenge other than my own psyche, other than myself, other than what I kind of connect up with the meaning of my success or failure. That's the thing we're constantly doing, is connecting meanings to our successes and failures that successes and failures do not actually imply. They do not contain that meaning, but we project that meaning onto them. And then something good happens and we feel amazing, and then something bad happens and we feel horrible, right? And I think both being a little bit like starting the day low energy, and then also being just having dived into so many of those today, I think that actually ended up being kind of like a nice psychic etude of facing a few of those moments and then coming through them and being like, yep, come on, this is not gonna actually destroy me. I think I'm gonna live through this. So that's where I am today. Today gave me a string of challenges, often like several waves in a row of feeling exhaustion at at meeting them, and then ultimately the feeling of, oh, right, I got this. And he almost needed to be exhausted in order to get that feeling, right? If the challenge, if I hadn't had the emotion, if I hadn't been sort of vulnerable in the way that I was, I might not have actually felt that. I might not have actually gotten there. I might have just sort of persevered or muddled through, or I don't know. It was, yeah, I felt like it was set up well for an insight to come through. So that's where I am today, people. And tonight I will get a good night's sleep. I'm going to put the monitor in my wife's room. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon.